And so when employees appreciate how security protects their own lives, behavior changes permanently.
Welcome to Chapter, protect me, so love, where CTOs share the tales and the comments. Start a few big names and the visions unfold. How many CTOs will share the stories untold?
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the How Many CTOs Does It Take podcast. I'm Brad Hefta-Gaub, and our regular co-host, Scott Porat, is not here with us today, but we have an exciting guest, Robert Siciliano. Hope I got that right,
You
Robert.
did? You did?
Um, and welcome to the podcast. Maybe introduce yourself a little bit, talk a little bit about your background, and then let's get into the conversation about security and security theater versus real security.
Awesome. Thank you. So, I am a Boston-based father of two 17-year-old and 20-year-old girls, married 25 years. I've never parked a car in Harvard Yard ever. Just, just so you know. Yeah. And I've been doing what I do since I was a teen, like professionally for about 30 years and truly for about 40. I speak for a living. I get in front of, CTOs, colleagues and employees and so forth and talk about security awareness, which I don't really talk about security awareness. I talk about security appreciation, which is a little bit different. It's actually a higher level, which is better. When I get off the platform, people always ask me, so how did you get into this? Like, what are you? Former FBI, CIA, Secret Service? Like, are you law enforcement, military? Like, how do you know what you know? And I tell them literally, I am from the streets of Boston. That's how I got here, literally.
Yeah, there you go.
And like for me, it all started off when I was like 12. I got mugged in downtown Boston. That opened me up to predators. At 13, I met a girl who I was, fond of, and she was fond of me. And she confided in me one day that her mother's boyfriend assaulted her. I didn't know what that meant. I go home and I ask my dad. He explains sexual assault and the birds and the bees in the same conversation when I was 13. Kind of had a profound effect in the way I viewed the world. From that point on, I just kind of embraced security and what it meant to me and others and what was necessary for people to understand it. And so I gravitated towards professions like revolving around security. In
Yeah.
my mid 20s, I was teaching real estate agents self-defense because in the US, realtors are murdered. I've been doing that ever since. And in the mid 90s, to manage my business, I got my first computer in 95, which was an IBM PS1 Consultant, which was the make and model of a Windows 3.0 with a 150 megabyte hard drive. And I had to buy an additional card so I could connect to AOL for dial-up.
Yep.
And
Good times.
right, exactly. My machine was a point of sale, as well as, to manage my business. And I got hacked like within the first month of owning that device. And what that meant was I lost thousands of dollars via credit card fraud.
Sure.
And I didn't know what the heck happened to me. I contacted my bank and credit card company. They explained to me it was a relatively new thing for them too. My business at the time was personal security as it relates to violence and theft prevention in the physical world.
Yeah.
I was stolen from via my computer over dial-up internet via AOL.
Right.
I didn't know that that was a thing.
Right.
And so at the time, and still today, my thing has always been reverse engineering the bad guys' motivations, how they choose their victims, and basically exposing the predator's motivations, right? And so when that happened to me, I was like devastated because it was thousands of dollars. But at the same time, I was intrigued. Like what they did was awful, but it was awesome.
Yeah. A new frontier.
And so I started to explain that to the realtors, and who also handle sensitive information. And I've been doing that now for 30 plus years. Obviously, it's evolved. I've evolved. The fraud has evolved. But you know what hasn't evolved? The consumer's understanding of risk.
You're right.
The employees today are no more advanced today, arguably, than they were 30 years ago. The most common questions that I get today when I'm on the platform, the CTOs, coworkers, is how do I know what link is okay to click when I do a Google
Yeah.
search?
Yeah, totally.
That's where they're at. So
Yeah.
that's me. That's where I come from. That's my background. And we'll also tell a little bit about my perspective as we go on.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously a very interesting kind of the path that you led to get here. It makes sense that you were kind of like, as you said, formed on the mean streets of Boston. I mean, although you might not have said the mean streets, but
Mean streets of Boston.
I
Yes.
might have added that part.
No, it's, yeah.
So one of the things that as a CTO, obviously a lot of times you're like, oh, what's your latest, what is your organization SOC 2 compliant? What are you HIPAA compliant? And this notion of like, kind of having our, employees do some training, watch some videos, click some buttons and do some quizzes and then force them to do that every year. If we haven't grown in, over the 30 years of your career, it sounds like you're saying like our awareness of what risk really looks like hasn't evolved much. What's the point of all this training?
So you said it best, force them to take this training. But I don't think it needs to be forced if you do it properly. And
Mm,
that's not being done at all. As you and I know it, cybersecurity is what, 30 years old? Like when did John McAfee do his thing back in
yeah,
the day? Late
yeah,
90s, mid 90s, if
yeah,
that, and 30 years maybe. And so our understanding of security awareness training today is based on those who figured out how to sell and market phishing simulation training about 15, maybe 20 years ago. FishMe being one of the first companies.
yeah,
And they hit the nail on the head. They sold Know Before came about with, Mitnick in the background or as a, spokesperson, so to speak, partner. And that's all good. It's necessary, but it's only solving the problem of phishing. It doesn't really move the needle regarding true human behavior and their worries and their fears and their concerns. And I know this because this is what I do, and we can talk about all that. And what's happening right now is what I consider security fatigue, which is caused by the compliance trap. It's bombarding employees with complex and personal rules that trigger security aversion. You know, the
yeah,
compliance trap is like this false sense of security felt by meeting the regulatory requirements, while the actual human behavior remains unchanged and vulnerable. This is what I see every day. I'm called by the CTOs and CISOs that say, hey, listen, all we want is for our people to care about security. We just want them to care. And that begins with making security personal
mm,
to the employee. So my core belief is that all security is personal. So personal security is essentially violence prevention and theft prevention, protecting your person. But what's more personal than protecting your identity, protecting your child's digital footprint, and the core belief that people protect what they love by teaching someone to secure their child's digital footprint, their own identity, their own data and dollars. You create more secure employees at work, right? Like that makes total sense to me, and it makes total sense to my audiences. When I walk in the room after I am, introduced, I walk into a room of, 100, 200, 500 people doing this. And for those of you who are just listening, I'm crossing my arms.
shut down.
Yeah, they're looking at me with a scowl on their face. Okay, security guy, what are you going to tell me that I don't already know?
Yeah.
I got to get back to work.
Or why do I got to listen to this again?
Yeah, and this guy, who is he? He's Italian. He's playing mafia anyways, right? And so what happens is, like, I start asking them questions. I engage in a dialogue, which all security training today is a monologue. It's being told what to do. It's do this or else, right?
Yeah.
And so as I'm asking them questions, like I'm asking very basic questions, like, so how many of you like can honestly say that you use a different passcode across all your critical accounts? If I get 15% of the room to raise their hand, that's a lot. Okay. And this is in
Yeah.
a corporate setting. Okay.
Yeah.
So in their personal lives, they're using all the same passcodes,
Right.
85% or more. Right. And studies show that as many as 94% of all passwords are basically the same. you know?
Yeah.
And then the next question is like, how many of you are using two-factor authentication in both your personal and professional email and in all your critical accounts? If I get 20%, it's usually a little bit more because it's required more often. That's a lot. So that means 80% are not using two-factor authentication. Okay. So 80 to 90% of employees are engaged in the worst of the worst, not using two-factor authentication, using the same passcode across multiple
Yeah.
accounts. Okay. And then I go on to show them, okay, 15 billion passwords, usernames and passcodes minimum, passwords are on the dark web, and show them the examples. And I take them online and show them email addresses and how many people are using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a passcode. And they see like millions and millions and millions of people are using password as a password. And they're like, oh, that's why we're supposed to change up our passcodes. And I begin to drill it into the heads like, this is the risks that we're all facing right now. This is why we're so screwed, and they begin to see like for their own lives why this is now something that they want to deal with. Okay. And what happens is, as I'm explaining all this to them, the faces start to kind of loosen up. Their eyes begin to open wider a little bit, which shows me that they're interested in what I have to say. Now they're curious. And as the arms kind of go down by their side or by their lap, the hands begin to go up, and now they have questions.
Yeah.
Because now it's becoming interactive. Now they're like, oh, this is about me. This is about my security. This is about protecting my information. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Now I'm interested because I've never had an opportunity to talk to somebody who understands this stuff that I've always wondered about that no one's ever really explained to me, including their CTO, including their CISO, who hasn't taken the time because they're just fatigued themselves. They're not getting the budgets they need. They're overwhelmed themselves. They're herding cats, and they're really just not getting the respect they deserve, to be frank. And like in the end, like they don't have time to, explain to the employee for the 100th time why that email that looks like it's coming from Amazon isn't coming from Amazon. I get that. But there's a way to go about it where you engage the human, the employee, who's dealing with all of these issues that they don't have the answers to, in a way that they begin to understand risk.
It's so interesting. I mean, everything you're saying resonates, it makes a ton of sense. And I part of me wonders if not just that there's security fatigue, but maybe almost like security nihilism or something. Like every week I get some, paper letter, to the house that says there's been a security breach and your, information was lost by a third-party data provider, etc. And I wonder, how do we combat that notion that I think some people have of like, look, it's all going to get hacked anyway. Just deal with it.
So that comes down to fatalism,
Yeah.
right? But there's a few other factors that precede that. And so from, your point of view, my point of view, that makes total sense. But there's other biological issues that humans have where we resist security. Okay.
Mm.
And security is truly resisted. And it's resisted due to the fact that it's not natural and it's not normal. And what does that actually mean? Okay. So over 30 plus years, 40 to be realistic, I've come to the conclusion that we all suffer from what I call, and I don't know if suffer is the right word, but we all are engaged in what I call the human blind spot.
Hmm.
The human blind spot is the psychological and truly biological instinct to trust what's familiar to us.
Sure.
And ultimately, it is that cognitive gap where biological trust overrides digital suspicion, leaving the door wide open to all kinds of fraud, AI enhanced deception, whatever, right? The biological default to trust and psychological shortcuts are the heuristics that criminals use to bypass human logic. Okay.
Sure. Totally.
Biological impulse versus intellectual understanding. It's that internal conflict between our evolved survival instincts and our modern knowledge or lack of knowledge of digital risk. And this is due to the fact that we are what is considered an interdependent species.
Sure. Totally.
Okay. And what does that mean? It means that we are dependent upon each other for our survival.
Yeah.
We would not survive without each other at all. We require each other at a minimum to procreate. Okay.
Yeah.
And the basis of that is that we need to trust each other.
Yeah.
That is our foundation. That is fundamental to being a human being. I need to trust. You need to trust me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
And so, with that, the people that we correspond with in person, the phone calls, emails, and text messages we get, we want to believe that the person on the other end is worthy of our trust, that they have our best interests. And so, throughout the day, week, month, our lives, we give the benefit of the doubt. And
Totally.
so, if we're trusting all day, every day, and we're saying once a year, okay, this is what phishing looks like.
Right. Totally.
Pay attention to this. Therefore, you will be good. And if you don't pass, you are fired. That's not how you train
Yeah.
security. You
Yeah.
train on explaining, listen, we trust by default. Let's start with that. Here's why security goes against our core beliefs, because we trust by default. And then there's other issues, myths, cultural myths on top of this that have been built over a lifetime. So as I'm asking the questions, passwords, two-factor authentication, next question is, how many of you lock the doors to your home?
Yeah.
If I get 60%, 70%, that's a lot.
Oh, interesting.
Most of the time, it's a lot less than that, depending on the part of the country that I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Totally. I think I've always noticed that as sort of like a urban rural divide, kind of, and a
Yeah,
generational divide.
totally. Totally, 100%, right? I talk to realtors all the time and they say, often we sell houses, the homeowner doesn't even know where the keys are. They haven't locked the door since they own the house.
Well, oh, I lock my front door every day, but I do have a key underneath the welcome mat.
Yeah, yeah. And so as I'm asking these questions, I say, well, did you know that every year in the US, there's between 1.5 and 2 million homes that are burglarized? Which means in the next decade, that's 15 to 20 million homes burglarized in the next 10 years, right? And then I go on to say, I ask questions like, okay, so how many of you have a home security system? And if I get 15% of the room to raise their hand, that's a lot, okay?
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, so why don't you have a home security system? Give me some reasons why. What's your rationale? And so the common answers are, well, we don't have a home security system because we have insurance, as if insurance is going to protect you from a predator at 3 a.m.
Right. Right.
Not well thought out, right?
Yeah.
And then the next answer is, oh, well, we don't have a home security system because my husband says if they're going to break in, they're going to break in. There's not much we can do to prevent it.
Yeah, I think that's a common belief, right? And even in the digital space, I would think that's a common belief. That's
Yeah.
essentially the fatalism I just mentioned earlier.
Fatalism, man. Fatalism sucks, okay? But
Yeah.
it's a human trait that people grab onto. And you know why they grab onto it? Because it justifies why I don't need security in their lives, okay?
Yeah.
It's awful what it does. But here's the clincher. I asked them, okay, so tell me again, what other reasons do you not have a home security system? The most common answer, we don't have a home security system because I don't want to live like that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And I say, well, what does that actually mean? What does that truly mean? And they say, well, I don't want this constant reminder that my house can be broken into. I don't want to have to worry. I just want to be free of all of that.
So these are some pretty fun, I agree with you, Robert, that there's some fundamental aspects of human beings. Like we're interdependent as a species. We also have these heuristic biases that we easily fall into, where, like confirmation bias, et cetera, they're so easy. So once you're raising the awareness, you're engaging with your customers in this notion of I'm not the regular security guy. I'm here to talk to you about to really connect with you about so you can understand this. Once you got their attention, how do you help them break through these kind of innate characteristics of the way that we operate as humans? I mean, it sounds like a pretty big hill to climb.
So it's actually pretty easy. But the biggest hill to climb to get over is the fact that when I asked them that question about, well, why don't you have that home security system? And they say, I want to live like that. My next question to them is, okay, so I'm a guy, and this is actually true, that has 20 plus security cameras in my home, like outside and inside in total. I've got 20 plus security cameras. And here's the clincher, right? And I said, so what does that say about what might you think about me as a human Like if you don't really know what I do for a living, let's just say like you hit this guy's got 20 plus security cameras. What might that say about my disposition, my outlook, like my worldview? Like I wake up every day, 20 security cameras. This guy must be what?
Paranoid.
Paranoid.
Yeah.
So now we're getting somewhere. Okay. And when I ask that question, the whole room goes paranoid and they laugh like it's
Yeah.
funny. Right.
Yeah.
And here's the issue with that. We as a culture, as a society, we directly correlate security in paranoia.
Oh, interesting.
What is paranoia? Paranoia is a mental health disease.
Yeah.
It is the false belief that people are out to get you,
Right.
that you truly believe that people are bugging your house, that the government is putting cameras inside of you or whatever. They've implanted a chip in your body. I have a first cousin who suffers from this disease. She
Yeah.
truly believes that the government has planted a chip inside of her. She's currently, I believe, living in her car because it's the only place that she feels safe. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's what paranoia is. We as a culture correlate paranoia. I don't want to live like that. I want to be free. I don't want to have to worry as security, as paranoia.
Yeah.
You've got to break down the employees' cultural views of what security is and isn't before you can get them to drink the Kool-Aid of what security actually truly is. And
Yeah.
that's an easy thing to do once we're all on the same page. But the page that we're on right now is that security is a bad thing.
Yeah, right. So I mean, one when I think about the difference between being security minded and being paranoid, you sort of said the definition of paranoia is this belief that, you know, everyone's out to get you, right? Or something like that. And I get is part of the answer here to say, well, it's not that everyone is out to get you. Most of us are trusting people and trustworthy people, but there's enough people out there that are out to get you that you need to be aware of it.
Exactly. And phishing simulation training doesn't do any of that stuff. And so what I explain is first and foremost, like that the likelihood of something bad ever happening to you is actually kind of slim, but there's a chance. And like similarly to like the fact that you put a seatbelt on because it's the smart thing to do.
Right.
You don't like put a seatbelt on because you're afraid or you worry or that you're paranoid. You put it on because it's a tool that gives you control.
Yeah.
And all of these various tools that we have at our fingertips that are available to us are just about that, about, having one up on the bad guy, becoming a tougher target, doing some very basic things that make you a harder target. And once they start to understand what security actually is versus what it isn't, it's actually not a very difficult hill to climb. But you've got to get to that point first and foremost. And no security training at all does that,
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
mine, to be frankly, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody does
Right.
that. Nobody does that. And primarily due to the fact that they don't come from a personal security background.
Yeah.
Everybody teaching it is coming from a tech background and they're speaking tech. Do this, don't do that, or else. It's all
Right.
compliance based. It's not personal security based. And if
Right.
you're coming from that perspective, like I come from a perspective that I got a 17-year-old and 20-year-old girls. How many times do you think that I've sat them down and talked about sexual assault? And these are the uncomfortable conversations that I don't know that many people have with their daughter. And I
Yeah.
think that's a conversation that you need to have with your daughter and with your son
Yeah.
who,
Totally. Of
who
course.
perpetrates the crime,
Yeah.
right? And these are uncomfortable conversations that we should be having in our lives with the people that we love. And these are the types of conversations that we need to be having with our coworkers who we're responsible for, who need to be part of the solution versus part of the problem.
Right.
And nobody's doing that because they don't know how to.
If I could kind of play this back, what I hear you saying is there's also this sort of like, because we're built to trust, because we're an interdependent species, because we have these typical heuristic traps that we fall into with our thinking. And one of those heuristic traps is we are built to avoid difficult conversations, right? This is right. Humans, would prefer to ignore the existence of the potential risk than to actually confront it and talk about it. And that's just kind of, again, like to your point, that's kind of how we're built. And
Yeah.
so I think what I hear you saying is a big part of this is get out of the security theater, the compliance theater, get out of that mode of just checking the box and get into the mode of having a real conversation about the potential risks that come, whether those be physical or digital. But certainly when you're a CTO or a CISO and you're trying to protect a tech-oriented company, that you have both those things. You have both physical and digital risk factors involved. And just even having that conversation is hard for leaders to do.
Yeah. Look at you kind of said it like in so many words that humans move away from pain and we
Yeah.
move towards pleasure,
Yeah, or avoiding pain for sure.
which is a form of denial.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Like when you are watching the 6 o'clock news and something tragic happens in a neighborhood somewhere, something bad happens to the neighbors, right? And the local news team comes in with a cameraman, a reporter, and they grab the neighbor and they knock on her door and she comes out and they start asking questions. What does the neighbor always say about what happened?
Oh, this doesn't ever happen in our neighborhood or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. They're going to say it tonight somewhere. Every night, every single night. They all say the same thing.
So surprised it happened in my
Yeah,
neighborhood.
they're always so surprised.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever wants to think or believe that these things can happen here. Nobody ever does. And we because that's what we prefer. Look at denial is wonderful.
Yeah.
It allows us to function in a world that is on fire. It allows us to get along and avoid threats and stress and anxiety. It's great. It's our comfort, but it's not effective when it comes to security at all.
One of the things you've already kind of mentioned is this notion of these kind of these heuristic traps that we have as humans. And I assume that one of the things you were going to mention, but I'm kind of curious if I'm reading this correctly, is that perpetrators or predators, attackers, are also know how we as humans, respond to things. And
They're
so
experts. They're
they're
experts.
experts at it. The what's one of the classic phishing scams is the spoofed email header to be from a authority figure that is your boss, right? So now you're getting an email that comes from your boss, or it looks like it's coming from your boss, and it's the quick, conversational, oh, hey, can you just help me out real quick? I left my laptop, in the office. Can you go ahead and log into the bank account and quickly, wire me $1,000 or whatever, these types of common traps. I think most of us aren't aware of the heuristic traps that we are running by default.
Right.
So how do you once you've got the attention, once you've got people saying, yes, I want to think about security differently, do you also feel like you need to teach kind of people what the traps we all fall for are, or sort of the cognitive traps that we have?
Of course, yeah. Uh, and that becomes much easier once again we're all drinking the security Kool-Aid. Once we're all on the same page, once we agree that security is a good thing, that yeah, it can happen to me. It's unlikely to happen to me, but if and when it does, I have a level of awareness now of security appreciation that I can kind of see it coming, right? And in this process, talking about those predators essentially, I explain right prior to getting to the do this, don't do that. These are all the, methodologies of the bad actors. As I explain how, that 97% of all the people that you're ever going to meet in the course of your life, 97% are good, that they're essentially worthy of your trust. That these are people that like essentially have a good heart, right? And occasionally, like that 97%, they lie. Occasionally they, have bad intentions. They deceive. Occasionally, right? But in general, they're good people, and you can pretty much trust them. And how, like, truly, and you could do your own research, and it's true that about 3% of women and as much as 6% of men, we're talking worldwide, medical communities would call them antisocial personality disorders. That these are truly the sociopaths and psychopaths in our lives. These are the men and women that do not experience empathy, sympathy, guilt, or remorse, that they are the ones that truly have no shame, and that they would be just as happy to see your mother or father homeless and they've taken all their money, you know?
Yeah.
And, and people ask me all the time, like, like, Like why how come these bad guys, like, why don't they just take what they know and they could cure cancer? And I'm like, they could care less about curing cancer. They
Yeah.
don't care about anybody but themselves. They are the wolves, we are the rabbits. They are the lions, we are the gazelles, right? And as they begin to kind of sit back in their chair and they begin to like realize, okay, like this is real. And this is something like that I can actually do. This is something that's within my capacity. This is something that like I want to understand so I can protect myself and my loved ones,
Yeah.
my child's digital footprint and my identity and my data and my dollars. Okay, now what do I do? And
Yeah.
that's when you begin to explain how the bad guys do what they do and how they choose their victims and all the different ruses that they use. And ultimately, the goal is to become what I call the strategic human firewall, right? So we all know what a firewall is. And you are already a strategic human firewall. I am already a strategic human firewall. We already recognize risk. We already look at phone calls and emails and text messages. We already deduce what's right and what's wrong, where the fraud is, where the hook is. We already see all that stuff because we've been doing it for so long, it's second nature to us. But for most people, they want to know, again, what link is okay to click in Google, right? And
Right.
so the strategic human firewall is designed to block deception. It's a proactive governance, it's a mindset that turns consumers, citizens, ultimately employees from passive targets, which they all are, into active detection layers.
Right.
We see it coming. We recognize risk. It's the shift from by default, I trust what I see, I give the benefit of the doubt to I verify everything, you know?
Yeah.
And it leads to what I call security appreciation.
Okay.
So it's the shift from awareness, which is so dead, which is knowing, you know, to appreciation,
Right.
which is caring,
Yeah.
right? And so when employees appreciate how security protects their own lives, behavior changes permanently. The security appreciation gap essentially is the chasm between an employee's intellectual understanding of risk, which is awareness,
Right.
in the emotional commitment to act on that knowledge,
Yeah.
which is appreciation. And I
Yeah.
call this the kitchen table effect. It's the multiplier effect where successful training ends when the employee is teaching the concepts to their family at home, cementing those lessons for life. So essentially what we're doing is we are the horse. This type of training is the horse. The all security is personal is the horse. The
Hmm.
cart is the phishing simulation training.
Right. Right.
The phishing simulation training comes afterwards.
Right. Sure.
Now, when they're taking the phishing simulation training, their mind has been rewired. They now appreciate the value in the information that they're consuming and they're looking at it as something that they want and know that they need to understand on a personal level first.
Yeah.
And then they apply it in both their personal and professional lives. It's a whole different ball game now. Now they
Yeah.
begin to look at the email in a whole different light, which is what security awareness training should be, but it's not at all.
Right.
It needs to be security appreciation training.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I like that. I like that differentiation in that language. Awareness, it just means you know about it. Appreciation means you care about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, one of the phrases that I've heard a lot, I agree with this statement. I've seen this in the organizations I've gone through as, an executive leader, where this notion of like the tone at the top is what really makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
If the C-suite doesn't have security appreciation, then it's pretty hard to get, the employee, the rank and file to have appreciation. What's your solution to that problem? I mean, is it more of the same? Like get the C-suite to appreciate?
I'm going to say something that's going to piss some people off. Okay.
Wait a second,
I
hold on a second. A guy raised on the mean streets of Boston. is going to say something that might piss some people off. All right, hold on. Go ahead. Just wanted to clear the air there.
I I don't think a lot of security leaders should be in security to begin with at all, because I don't think that they're congruent. I don't think that they truly believe in security. I don't think that many people that are in the business of security believe in security.
Mm,
Because, and I'm going to say something controversial, okay? If you are a security leader and you don't have a credit freeze, I don't know that you should be in security.
yeah,
If you're
yeah,
a security leader and you don't have a home security system, I don't know that you should be in security.
yeah. You're sort of saying a life, it needs to be a life philosophy.
I don't know that you can be in security and not truly live and breathe security. I consider myself a messenger for the message.
Yeah.
Okay. And I truly believe in security. And I don't know that you can teach security unless you truly engage in the process of security as a lifestyle.
But let's say okay, so I love that perspective. That makes a ton of sense. Let's say okay, so we got some CTOs that listen to this podcast, and let's say they've got that perspective. They really are believers. They really appreciate, but their CEO or the rest of their C-suite doesn't appreciate it. Do you have advice on how to convert convert the rest of your C-suite to be believers?
It's easy. Every one of us has, a family member. Let's just say a mom or a dad or a sister or a brother or a child for that matter, who reaches out to them on a regular basis regarding, is this real? What do I do here? We all have somebody in our life that just can't figure out the whole password thing. They can't stop clicking links. They respond to friggin' pop-ups thinking it's Apple and it's not Apple, you
Yeah.
know? Like we all have these people in our lives. And when I say all, like security leaders have all those people in their lives. All C-suite executives, including the CEO, has those same people in their lives. Every single employee that you have has those people in their lives. We all have the same problems. And when you speak to those same problems to the people responsible for your budget, to those decision makers that are responsible for giving you the thumbs up and the green light to actually put the horse before the cart, right? You remind them of all the problems that you as a human face in regards to your own family and the stuff that they're doing. And you begin to tell that story because it's true. And
Yeah.
now I just can't get my mom to stop, buying things on late night TV vitamins that she doesn't need. And my dad responds to every pop up. And my sister, who's widowed, is entangled in these romance scams. And begin to tell your own story and tell it like reminding them, I'm guessing you probably have the same things too. And then explain that's our every single employee that we have. That's what they're up against.
Yeah.
And they look at security as a bad thing, as it's paranoia, and begin to explain what security is and what security isn't, and how the entire organization is up against cultural myths and misnomers that aren't moving the needle are the reason why we're having the problem.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is, like, I don't know that there's ever been a better time to do this or a worse time, depending on your perspective.
Why do
And
you say that?
well, because like right now with AI and deep fakes and voice cloning,
It only took 40 minutes before we got to AI. Good job. We know we're going to get there eventually.
so when I say the best time or the worst time, because frankly, I think you're all effed right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the fact that all you're training them on is phishing simulation training, and maybe with like, we might start introducing deep fakes and voice cloning, sure. But like, we're so not prepared to deal with risk as is based on our aversion to security to begin with. Now with like voice cloning and the phone ringing and it's your daughter screaming in the background, what human being is going to be able to overcome that if they don't believe in security to
Yeah.
begin with?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
So there's that, right? But at the same time, the good aspect of it is that, like, at least from me and my perspective, is that the AI and the deep fakes and the voice cloning and everything that goes along with it, and the pig butchering and like the money being made and how awesome these criminals are. They're awesome. They are awesome what they do. They're incredible, right? There's never been a better time because that story is so compelling, right? Like right now, this is like the stuff of 007, Minority Report, like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible stuff.
Yeah.
It's awesome. This is Hollywood stuff. And I think this is like the perfect opportunity to engage an audience in security appreciation because this is fun. This is interesting. This is way more than cybersecurity. And to be honest, like cybersecurity awareness, cybersecurity training, none of that is even in any of my branding materials. I don't even talk about cybersecurity anymore because it's so dead. It's been ruined. Like by all the people that do what I do, they've made it boring. They've made it fear-based. Like
Right.
they've made it ugly. Frankly, they've made it ugly, right? But now with AI and deepfakes and voice cloning, it's sexy. It's Hollywood. Like this stuff is awesome. And when you start talking about it in that way, everyone's on the edge of their seat. Like this is like an
Yeah.
unbelievable story that has actually come true. And it's
Yeah.
happening right now. And showing those examples, they want to know. Like this is a good time if
Yeah.
you actually are drinking the Kool-Aid that I'm explaining.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're just like compliance-based security fatigue, you're effed.
Yeah, it's so funny. I had a family incident similar to what you're talking about with the AI where my mom's Facebook account got hacked and they had successfully gotten just 20 seconds of video of her. And they used that then to just reel in as many people as they could that were in her network, where it would look, they built a thing that would look like she was FaceTiming me or my sister, my brother. Now, fortunately, we all didn't fall for it. We were like, wait a second, this is suspicious. But some of her octogenarian friends got, sucked into it because it was good. It was really good.
In a word, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It is. It's awful, but it's awesome. You know, that's a compelling story.
Yeah.
And it's true. And that is, we are at the very, very beginning of that. And
Yeah.
it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And the existing training is frankly going to make it worse. People are just going to put the covers over their head. They're going to bury their heads in the sand, and then they're going to go into full blown denial. Like it's just going to get worse. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. It's too overwhelming. And all they want to do anyways, is they want to go home and they want to watch Dancing with the Stars. That's all they want
Yeah.
to do. They don't want to deal with any of this crap. But if you make it interesting, if you make it fun, if you make it about them, look at, we are selfish creatures or self-interested creatures.
Sure.
And actually, the word selfish kind of gets a bad rap. Being selfish is absolutely fundamental and necessary. We have to be selfish.
Yeah.
There's a reason why when you're on the airplane and the flight attendant is providing instruction
Right.
and she talks about the oxygen mask coming down, what does he or she say to do with the oxygen mask?
Put it on yourself first before you help others.
And that is because you cannot possibly help others until you take care of yourself.
Yep.
And so all security being personal, start with the human where they're at in their lives, focus on them and their wants and their needs and their concerns, what's important to them first,
Yeah.
and then provide them compliance-based training. That's when they'll understand it. But until that time, you're just talking to somebody who's not listening to you because your CISO is paranoid as far as they're concerned.
Right. Exactly. We're just flipping the bozo bit on the CISO because that person's just paranoid or falling into that trap.
Yeah.
I am curious, do you see a correlation with security appreciation or kind of, let's call it security literacy, maybe to get to appreciation? Do you see a correlation with that and media literacy or even just sort of like education and fundamental kind of critical thinking? Like is there a do we kind of have a bigger challenge here as a culture if we're struggling on those aspects as well? Or Not related at all.
So you're a smart guy, and the words that you're looking for are digital literacy.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
digital literacy. And we are sorely, sorely lacking in digital literacy in this country. It's
Yeah.
awful. We are only beginning to teach it in schools. My kids have learned digital literacy in the private schools in which they attend. It's only now that municipalities and statewide are beginning to ban cell phones in school. And that tells you point blank that these entire states are digitally illiterate, allowing phones in schools
Yeah.
completely. That is like caveman stuff, right?
Yeah.
And because we significantly lack digital literacy in this country, security literacy is just like it's taken a, it's the caboose. It's back of
Yeah.
the bus. It doesn't even show up on our radar. It's not even a thing. And so I teach digital literacy revolving around cybersecurity. But in that same presentation, if I have like a 6 hour day, which I often do, which isn't going to happen generally in a corporate setting, but in like a full day training, I'm talking digital literacy for a good portion of the day, about how I've raised my children in regards to their own devices and how I react and respond to mis and disinformation and how I do my own research to determine what's real and what's fake and how I, manage my own digital life and how I see others getting in lots of trouble in regards to their own digital lives. And I speak to firefighters and teachers and law enforcement officers on social media and online reputation management and what's okay and not okay to say and post and like and share because you are in the public eye. And what you put out there has gravity. It matters, and when a real estate agent, if I do a quick search on realtor fired post, 3 words,
Right.
realtor fired post,
Right.
you see thousands of articles on a realtor who was fired because of what she posted.
Yeah.
You do the same exact thing for a firefighter, for a police officer, for a teacher. Like that. What does that tell you? It tells you that digital literacy in this country is non existent in that regard. You
Yeah.
know, when somebody likes or thumbs up their buddy's, anti Semitic
Yeah.
post because it's his buddy and he, wants to support his buddy and he gets in trouble for that, he doesn't understand why. Well, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But that's all part of it. And you're 100% correct. That is the fundamental issue that we face here. But like, I can't totally do that in a 90-minute presentation. And the interesting thing is, like, sometimes they won't even give me 90 minutes because they got to get back to work. And it's like, you really
Yeah.
think I can solve this problem in 60 minutes? I mean,
Yeah.
at least give me 90, 75 to 90. Like, at least give me that, you know? But like, it's a real problem, but not one that we need to, that we should just throw our hands up in the air and be overwhelmed by. It's one that we should actually address, and it's
Yeah.
addressable. It's solvable, and it is truly solvable. I do this over the course of a presentation, whether it's a 90-minute or a 6 hour, and you would be amazed when at the end of the day, people come up to me and they're like, I did not want to be here. I truly only came here because my boss told me to be here. I really didn't, think I needed any of this, but I'm so glad I came. And I really wish that my spouse was here because he or she would have loved it. And do you do programs for high schools? Because they need this
Right.
too.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
that's what security appreciation should be.
Yeah, you're right. Your point is like if you can get people to start to appreciate it for themselves. If you can help like overcome the sort of like heuristic biases and the sort of like built-in biological interdependency to get that person to click into a selfishness state around their own safety and their own kind of safety in the world in general, then you've got them into appreciation mode. And once you get them in appreciation mode, they become a team member and an acolyte to help proselytize to the rest of them. Like, yes, we all need this.
When this podcast is done, I'm going to go back to the video or the audio, and I'm going to take what you just said and include that exactly in my sales presentation because you hit the nail on the head. That is exactly
Yeah.
this CEO, what the CISO or the CTO needs to tell their boss.
Yeah, totally. So how do we summarize this, Robert? Other than get people to become selfish so that they can start to appreciate it. What else do we need to know as CTOs and CISOs and C-suite executives?
So I think that the majority of the people that are listening to this, watching this, are already a form of the strategic human firewall. Let's get that straight. Even though there might be a few people who might not be congruent, I think that based on my chastising, they may pick up a credit freeze or maybe consider a home security system. Apologies, nothing personal. Okay. That said, I think we all understand risk, but we may not be effective communicators. We may not be the best communicators, and that might be a skill that some of us might want to adopt if we're going to take this to those in the organization that matter, or that in order to move the needle, right? Just maybe communicate a little more effective in
Hmm.
regards to what it's going to take to actually solve this problem, and then from there, to actually do it. Uh, I presented not too long ago in certain part of Northern California to a company I'm not going to name, but they're responsible pretty much for what mobile phone technology is today,
Hmm.
and they essentially created the backbone of what we know as mobile communications. And I spoke in this beautiful, beautiful auditorium that I know orchestras play there and such, like inside this company's headquarters. It was amazing. But not everybody has that, but everybody has an all hands event, right? And I did an all hands event in front of maybe 200 employees. That's all it was 200 employees in the room. But there was about 4,000 people connected to that
Hmm.
event. They were all watching, and many of them actually asking questions, because my presentation is a dialogue. It is the same way that you and I are talking right now. It is the same way that I communicate with my girls and my honey. When my girls come home upset, disillusioned, overwhelmed, what do? We sit down
Yeah.
and we have a dialogue. I ask them questions. They tell me what's going on. I respond with more questions. They tell me what's going on. And then, when the time's right, I ask them, I'm like, okay, so can I give you a little bit of information, stuff that I've learned, and let's talk about it. Let's discuss what's worked for me. And we have this dialogue, and they walk away not so upset with some tools they can use going forward so they can actually solve the problem on their own.
Yep.
That's how we raise our families. That's how we should be talking to our coworkers. And
Yeah.
I'm not asking a single CTO to start holding your, employees' hands and kumbaya or any of that stuff. I'm just saying a little more empathy might help.
Connect with, I mean, well, in some sense, that's to your point, humans are an interdependent species. If we connect with each other, then that's the gateway into influence, right? And so if the
100%.
goal is to influence them to become, to appreciate security, then connect first.
Yeah. And so at this all hands on event, I'm speaking to 200 people, but they're asking the questions of the 4,000 people. They're engaged in the dialogue of those 4,000 people that are watching, because when they start raising their hands, which often go up pretty quickly, and now 10 people are raising their hand, right? And I point, okay, sir, what was your question? And he asks that question. And then I point to the woman, 5 seats down. You had a question? Oh, he just asked it.
Yeah.
We all have the same cares and concerns. We're all the same in that regard, you
Yeah.
know? So those 4,000 people watching are the 200 people that are in the room. It's the same thing. And so now I've just affected 4,200 people's appreciation of security.
Yeah.
That's an easy sell. That's an easy thing to do, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
You just got to make it more human,
Make it
and
human.
less, you got to affect the wetware. What's the wetware
Yeah.
versus the software? The
Yeah.
wetware is the human brain. Yeah, right
Yeah.
there. You just got to affect that. And truly, my perspective is, in order, security appreciation is from security awareness is from the neck up.
Yeah.
Security appreciation is from the heart up.
Yeah.
And in order to change minds, you need to affect and change hearts first.
Yeah,
That's
that makes
easy.
sense.
If
Makes
that's
sense.
easy if you are, I guess, not a sociopath or a psychopath.
Right. Right. Yeah, this is super, super interesting stuff, Robert, and I appreciate you kind of your perspective is really compelling. And so I think that yeah, it's definitely given me something to think about as a fractional CTO who's working with multiple teams and helping them go through their SOC compliance. And I literally just had a meeting a couple days ago with one of the CEOs who was like, "Wait, what happens if?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, we did have everybody sign that agreement, right?" So but I love how you're presenting it, that if they aren't really connecting it at a human level with their heart, then it's just in their mind, and that's not enough. This is fantastic, Robert. I'm gonna say like you've given me a fresh perspective. I hopefully the listeners of the podcast have gotten a fresh perspective. They're gonna turn away from compliance theater and the drudgery of the annual renewal of the watch the video that's a one-way thing, and they'll look into the idea of working with you, or at least approaching the philosophy that you've brought to the table of connecting with us as human beings in order to get from security awareness to security appreciation
It's not turning away, it's in addition to.
in addition to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still got to do that. It's still necessary, but you put the horse before the cart.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you start to see, because I know when I have friends that are, CIOs, CTOs, CISOs, and their thing is like, I need numbers, I need metrics, I need results, I need this. I get it, but you're going to get better results once you add an addendum to your existing training. Then you'll start to see different results. But as is, you're just going to get the same results that aren't necessarily. I'm seeing too many people getting fired, too many people getting shamed. I don't know that that's going to be effective with AI and deepfakes going forward.
Yeah. Totally. Well, thanks a lot for joining the pod, Robert. This was an amazing conversation. We'll make sure that we include in the show notes links to your services, and so people that are interested can reach out to you.
You can also find me at protectnowllc.com. Is that cool?
Yeah, protectnowllc.com. That
Thank you,
sounds
sir.
fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week. This episode of How Many CTOs Does It Take podcast was edited by Saffron Hefta-Gaub. Our theme song was AI generated by Brad. Please follow us on all the social media platforms at How Many CTOs Pod. You can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, TikTok, and Patreon, or at our website at howmanyctospod.com. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe on the podcast platform of your choice. Thanks for listening.